This is the Kia EV3, a compact electric hatchback, which in its product presentation Kia calls an SUV. And this is a MINI Aceman, an electric version of the 5-door hatchback, which is now called the Cooper, and MINI claims that this is a small crossover whose all-electric drive opens up a whole range of fresh possibilities in terms of vehicle design. Now, depending on the configuration, these cars can have a similar price, similar range, similar performance. Does Kia's technology and design stand up against a premium brand like MINI? When I booked these models for test drives, I was very curious about the results of the comparison. I already know the outcome, and I'm about to share the results of my observations with you. You can find reviews of both of these cars on my channel, links in the description below the video. Also, if you're here for the first time, subscribe, press the bell icon to get notifications about new reviews and comparisons I make, and I make them every week. Now, channel members get to watch new videos weeks and sometimes even months in advance. So that's before everyone else and without any ads. So perhaps you might want to consider becoming a channel member. It's not very expensive, and all this and more early. In this video we'll compare the exterior design, luggage space, rear seats, cockpit, ride and handling and range. Just in case if you haven't noticed, I'm recording this in the winter. So this is going to get even more interesting because today it's about -11 degrees Celsius. Find out what's that in Fahrenheit. It's pretty cold. As far as design is concerned, the Kia EV3 looks modern. It resembles a miniature version of the EV9 7-seater SUV. In terms of dimensions, the EV3 is close to the Dacia Duster, but unlike the Romanian crossover, Kia only pretends to have a high ground clearance. That's what the black plastic cladding around the sills and the fenders is for. The EV3 has less than 15 centimeters of ground clearance, which used to be normal in hatchbacks back in the day. MINI, with a ground clearance of just over 14 centimeters, uses the same tricks, lots of black plastic along the sills and the fenders. While the EV3 is 430 centimeters long and has 268 centimeters wheelbase, the Aceman is about 22 centimeters shorter and has a wheelbase that is about 6.5 centimeters shorter. Measuring 157 centimeters tall, the Kia is also more than 6 centimeters taller than the MINI. At 185 centimeters wide, the EV3 is nearly 10 centimeters wider than the Aceman. In addition to creating an illusion that we are dealing with a crossover rather than a hatchback, from the front the Aceman resembles a miniature Countryman. Also, from every angle you can see a mile away that it's a MINI. MINI sells because of its image, and not much can be done about the design. Kia, on the other hand, has a clean slate, and I think its cars are interestingly modern, but at the same time not over the top. Which one of these two cars do you like better? Leave a comment below. I'll start with the frunks. Kia has a small frunk, just 25 liters, but it's enough for a charging cable. Not all AC charging points have a charging cable. Sometimes you have to bring your own. And you don't want to look for it at the bottom of the boot under I don't know, maybe luggage that you're carrying in there. For a model that, according to the press release, features clever use of space, while, and I quote here, the all-electric drive opens up a whole range of fresh possibilities in terms of vehicle design, MINI has little to show for it here. And yet, speaking of clever use of space and opening up a whole range of fresh possibilities in terms of vehicle design, the larger Kia EV3 has a smaller turning radius than the MINI Aceman. The tailgate on the EV3 can be electrically operated, and the boot volume is, lo and behold, 460 liters. I'm trying to make this as interesting as I can. By the floor, the boot is 105 centimeters wide and 80 centimeters deep to the second row backrests. When the backrests in the second row are folded, these split 40-60, and the front passenger seat is moved all the way forward, there is 180 centimeters of space. The height to the cargo cover is 37 centimeters, with the floor in the upper position, which gives us a flat loading area when the seats are down, and when the floor is lowered, there is 52 centimeters to the cargo cover.
Under the floor, in the lower position, there is still a styrofoam tray with compartments for a repair kit, tools, fire extinguisher, etc. When the floor is in the upper position, the cargo cover fits underneath it.
The tailgate in the Aceman opens manually, and that's regardless of the equipment version. There is no electrically operated boot lid. The boot lid, however, is shaped in an awkward way so that mud collects not only around the release button but also all the way here, and then it runs down the boot lid and drips inside the boot and on whomever is trying to reach into the luggage compartment. Not a very good job.
The Aceman's boot has 300 liters capacity, the width is 95 centimeters and the depth to the backrests in the second row is 60 centimeters. With the backrests folded down, there is 150 centimeters to the front passenger seat, slid all the way forward. The height to the parcel shelf is 38 centimeters with the floor in the upper position and 45 centimeters when the floor is lowered. A charging cable fits under the floor in the lower position and the parcel shelf fits under the floor in the upper position, and a flat cargo space is created with the second row seats folded.
The rear seat in the EV3 is fairly flat. The advantage is that it's easier to sit 3 people across, and the third person will also appreciate the flat floor. Now, the downside is that 2 people can slide around. Fortunately, they have a center armrest to keep them in place. Also, the seat width is 125 centimeters. However, at elbow level, there is about 150 centimeters.
There are pockets in the doors and in the front seat backs. There is an air conditioning vent. There are 2 USB-C ports in the front seat backs. I'm 175 centimeters tall. Behind the driver's seat set to my driving position, I have about 12 centimeters legroom. I also have about 7 centimeters headroom, though I'd rather sit more upright.
The rear seat in the Aceman is also 125 centimeters wide. However, at elbow level, there is 10 centimeters less than in the EV3. The seats are contoured for 2 passengers, even though this is a 5-seater car, and the press release mentions an amply sized rear of the vehicle. I guess someone asked ChatGPT to write something positive about the car, because no sober person would write such rubbish. Instead, MINI could resume posting specifications for its models, from which prospective customers would learn that the MINI offers not only 2 rear ISOFIX anchor points, but also 1 on the front passenger seat, something that Kia doesn't, because Kia only has the 2 rear ISOFIX anchor points, which you can learn about in the specification, which is publicly available online.
Unless I've shrunk because of the freezing temperature, I'm still 175 centimeters tall, and behind the seat, set to my driving position, I have about 10 centimeters legroom. I also have about 5 centimeters headroom, more where the panoramic roof starts. USB-C ports, and the only cup holder is between the front seats. And there is a tunnel running through the middle, because a whole range of fresh possibilities in terms of design. The door pockets are tiny.
In front of the driver, there is a wide display which stretches 3/4 of the cockpit and is divided into 3 zones. The first one is the odometer, trip computer, etc. The second, smaller zone, is your climate control panel. It's partly or mainly, actually entirely, obstructed by the steering wheel, and then there is the infotainment system in the center of the cockpit, but the driver also gets a heads-up display.
Kia kept a lot of physical buttons, both on the steering wheel and above the driver's left knee, plus the basic switchgear in the middle of the cockpit. Although the drive selector joystick is behind the steering wheel, it is visible through the spokes. In the middle of the cockpit, under the screen and the air conditioning vent, are buttons for temperature control, USB-C ports, a 12-volt outlet, as well as a wireless charger that does more heating than charging, even during the winter. Then there are cup holders, a cubby for your everyday stuff, and a sliding console, presumably for placing a laptop on it to work while you're charging. Don't try to put anything underneath it though, as it will be swallowed. I made a mistake of putting the car registration papers there, and I had to use a multi-tool to retrieve them. There is a medium-sized glove box, and the door pockets are decent. The seats are electrically operated but without memory function. The lateral support is insufficient and I slide around too much in the seats in the corners.
The Aceman's cockpit, or Minis in general, is minimalist. Minimalist? Get it? There is only a head-up display in front of the driver and everything else happens on the 24 centimeters round display, 24 centimeters across. Most of the settings are controlled from the screen, however there are some physical buttons here and there around the cockpit, so basic functions can be accessed using muscle memory rather than nervously searching them on the screen, because things change on the screen.
There is a wireless charger, USB-C ports, way too large cup holders. No one in the States will buy this and Europeans don't drink from buckets. The armrest is attached to the driver's seat. There is a small storage compartment between the seats and the glove box is on the small side. The pockets are, let's say, adequate. The seats in the Aceman are comfortable even despite the integrated headrests. I sit more comfortably than in the Kia, although I appreciate the extra space in the EV3. However, I do like Mini's ambient lighting. At night I can see easily where I put my stuff. In the Kia, everything below the screen is a dark hole. Ambient lighting is only available on EV3's top trim.
The Kia EV3 is available with a standard or extended range, which means a traction battery with net capacity of 55 or 78 kilowatt hours respectively, and WLTP range of 436 or 605 kilometers. In the winter, when I'm recording this comparison, the daytime temperature hovers around freezing and at night it drops to as low as -10, -15 degrees Celsius. I park both cars outside, plugging them in only for charging, no preconditioning. In such conditions, the Kia EV3 with extended range and an optional heat pump is able to drive about 400 kilometers on a single charge. Now, Kia does offer some recuperation options. You steer them with those paddle shifters here by the steering wheel. There is automatic radar-based recuperation, or there are a couple of recuperation levels, including full self, not full self-driving. Nobody offers full self-driving. One pedal driving, and that's called I-pedal. Like I pedal, not I pedal.
The EV3 peaks at 127 kilowatts DC. The charging curve is fairly flat. There is also 11 kilowatt AC charging, with plans to bump it up to 22 kilowatts in 2026. The EV3 gives the impression of being much more nippy than the data would suggest. The handling is not as engaging as in the Mini, but sufficiently fun to make me consider the Kia. The suspension is rather stiff. I also have a problem with the falling roofline, which limits visibility in the rearview mirror. I can only see cars close behind me, but not those further away. There is a decent 360 camera. Navigation with route planning is okay. The EV3 can tow up to 500 kilograms in the standard range version and up to 1000 kilograms in the extended range version.
The Aceman is a joy to drive, provided that the road surface is completely flat. Even the smallest bumps expose the harsh ride. Also, some unfortunate combination of the wheelbase length, weight and firmness makes the car jerk back and forth on some bumps, and it's a shame because otherwise the Aceman is ace at handling. The Mini Aceman is available in an E version with 38.5 kilowatt-hour traction battery and 184 horsepower, and an SE version with 49.2 kilowatt-hours net traction battery and 218 horsepower. This is the latter.
The range of the E version is about 300 kilometers and the SE will do about 400 kilometers. In the summer, I reviewed a Cooper SE, which also had a claimed range of around 400 kilometers. It was achievable in the extra-urban cycle. The range dropped to about 300 kilometers around the city and around 250 kilometers on the motorway. That's assuming you start with a full charge and drive to empty rather than in the 10 to 80% state of charge range. In that review, I said I would be testing the Aceman in the autumn or winter conditions, and indeed, that's how it turned out. The conditions were identical to those of the Kia EV3, i.e. near zero during the day and around minus 10 degrees Celsius at night. Parking outside, no preconditioning, on a test route that was about 60-something kilometers around the city, 60-something extra-urban and 60-something on the motorway, the Aceman barely covered 200 kilometers. Nothing to write home about.
Same with DC charging, which peaks at 95 kilowatts. This is not a car you're going to be road tripping, especially not in the winter. Sure, the bigger Mini battery is smaller than that in the standard range Kia, but the EV3 also has a heat pump and is therefore at least 2-3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers more efficient on cold days.
Mini uses radar-based recuperation by default. There is also a B mode for reasonably strong recuperation, good for long hill descents, but it's not full one-pedal driving. Visibility is good and there is a wide range of adjustment of the position behind the steering wheel. Like the brand's other models, the Aceman also has features such as a 360 camera, augmented reality navigation, and parking assist. Prices of the Kia EV3 start at €35,990 for the base spec with standard range. It costs more than $5,000 to get the long-range model. This test example with options costs €48,260. Prices of the Mini Aceman start at €30,650 for the E and €34,150 for the SE. This test car is an Aceman SE in John Cooper Works trim. With options, it costs €46,446.
The Kia EV3 is a very competent car which also looks funky. The Mini Aceman drives better and has better calibrated driver aids, but in everyday use the EV3 is just a more sensible choice. Also because if you don't care much about range, you can have a fully loaded Kia for way less than a Mini with comparable performance. And which one of these two cars speaks to you? Are you focused on the range, or maybe the go-kart handling aspect is what you're all about? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.